Hello everybody, and welcome to something a bit different for this channel. So I know different is scary, but don't worry, hear me out. So for those of you who may not be aware, my former job before viruses and unemployment and me deciding to retrain and change careers, I used to be a park ranger. I am in fact a fully qualified park ranger. Yeah, not the type of person you'd expect to know an abnormal amount of 40k lore, but there you go. So yes, I am a fully qualified park ranger, and throughout my years of working in conservation and rangering, I've amassed quite a few stories. I've been to quite a few awesome places, met quite a few interesting people, heard a lot of crazy tall tales, and I've also amassed quite a history of interesting stories, interesting places I've been to and things. And I thought I'd like to actually share some of them with you because I like the idea of being able to share some of my stories for other people to get some enjoyment out of. And I'm always a fan of institutional memory, so maybe someone who wants to go into conservation will hear a few of my stories and feel inspired. Maybe they will realize that conservation isn't for them. So anyway, here we go. Now, I was thinking of all the stories I wanted to share, maybe, my adventures holding baby kakapo or baby kiwi, or some of my mountain climbing or being to remote islands off the south coast of New Zealand. But I thought for the first story, I'd actually like to share a story that isn't actually mine, but used to be one of my old boss's stories that he told me that I really adore. And I've always thought this would be a good kids movie. Well, not kids movie, but a good children's book if you told it right. So, here we go. The story basically goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a Takahe named Pearl. Now, Pearl the Takahe was raised in a giant enclosure at the Bill Takahe Center, and she was basically left to do normal Takahe things. For the first year of her life, she was taught how to eat by herself, taught how to be a Takahe by her parents, and everything was happy and jolly and well. Well, until one day, the big old ranger came and grabbed her, threw her into a box, and took her away to another pen. He released her out into this pen, which was far smaller than her old pen. Her old pen was acres upon acres of land, and this little pen was only 100 meters by 100 meters squared. Well, Pearl the Takahe was not having any of this. Pearl the Takahe wanted to be free. So, she looked around at the little chicken wire fence that she'd been enclosed in and went, I'm strong enough to nibble through that. So nibble, 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 nibble. And she nibbled a hole through the fence, hopped out, and buggered off. She vanished. Well, the ranger was very unhappy about this. Losing such a rare bird is not good. And the fact that it was able to break through the fence and escape was very annoying. Well, he looked around and he couldn't find her, and they assumed that she had just gone MIA and vanished. But one day, he was outside Pearl's old pen where she grew up, and he looked down, and there was Pearl, standing outside her old pen, squawking away to herself, trying to get in. Well, it had been 2 months since anyone last saw her, and the pen was at least 5-6 kilometers away, and she had to cross a major national highway, so Pearl the Takahe was very determined to go home. Well, the ranger wasn't having any of this. He had a schedule to keep. She was due to be released into the wild, and he wasn't about to let this happen. So he set up a little trap, and he caught her again, and he threw her back into the small little enclosure that she'd escaped from. But this time, it was different. This time he'd replaced the chicken wire with plastic, a solid layer of plastic. No little Takahe was going to nibble her way out of this. Well, Pearl was not about to be discouraged by something like this. If she couldn't go through it, and she couldn't dig under it, then she'd just go over it. So she ran as fast as she could up against the pen wall, scrabbled with all her might, flapped her wings, and hopped over the pen, and away she was to freedom. Well, the ranger was very annoyed about this happening again. This was just embarrassing. However, he knew where she was going to go, so he waited And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, with the ranger checking in every day, there she was, right back outside her old pen, where she used to live as a child. Well, the ranger grabbed her again and chucked her back into that pen. But this time the ranger was smarter. He'd made the walls of that pen even taller. So this time there was no way she could escape. Except Takahe was very cunning. She wasn't about to let a little thing like extra height escape her. Well, she had noticed that one of the supporting fence posts was on a bit of an angle. So again she scrabbled with all her might up against the corner and hopped over that fence post and away to freedom. Well, again the ranger muttered and grumbled about this. He fixed that fence post, coated everything in plastic so she could get no grip, went back up there, and 3 days later caught her and put her back into that pen. Well, this time he was getting a bit annoyed about this, and the ranger was complaining to his bosses about how he couldn't spend all of his time chasing after this one bird. He was getting a bit tired of it and wanted to know if something could be done. Well, while he was doing that, the Takahe worked her way out of that pen again. And while the ranger was on the phone, he looked out the window. And what could he see but the Takahe wandering around the courtyard? Well, the ranger was not having this. He ran out and quickly grabbed her, chased her down, grabbed her, and threw the Takahe into Alcatraz, the biggest, toughest, most impenetrable pen that there was at the Burwood. Solid 7-foot corrugated steel and concrete enclosure that nothing could escape from. It was split into 2 halves with a 1.5-meter fence down the middle. It was two separate pens surrounded by an impenetrable wall. Well, he threw her into the left-hand side of Alcatraz, and he went off, and he just pleaded with his bosses, "You need to do something about this bird. It just will not be tied down. Poor the Takahe just wants to be free, and I'm getting sick and tired of having to chase her my whole life." Well, they agreed, and they decided that they needed to send her away to somewhere where she couldn't escape. They needed to banish her to an island far out into the sea where she could never escape from, but she could still be free and safe in the wild. So they agreed. A big party of rangers came together. They opened the left-hand side door of Alcatraz, and there was no bird to be seen. At this point, the poor ranger whose job it was to capture her all this time was about ready to explode. However, when they peered down the dividing fence and looked into the right-hand side of Alcatraz, there was Pearl, pecking up against the corrugated iron fence trying to escape. Well, they laughed good-natured about this, grabbed her, put her into a box, and sent her up to Auckland in a plane. And then, once on the plane, they sent her in a boat and banished her to Motutapu Island, where they believed that she would never be able to escape, and she would be able to be free in safety and in comfort to her own life choices. They put a transmitter on her to keep an eye on her location at all times, and released her. Well, the Takahe, despite being free in a new strange place she'd never been to before, wasn't really interested in this whole being monitored thing, so she picked off her transmitter, dropping it into the ground, and the Takahe vanished for almost 2 years. People started to believe she was just a myth, and people started to believe that perhaps she was trying to build a raft to escape the island, because the Takahe was not the type of bird to allow herself to be contained in anywhere, even an island it would seem. However, after 2 years, she reappeared again. She was a lot older, quieter and more mellow now, and she wanted a bit more out of her life. So the Takahe found the most handsome and burly, strong, big male Takahe she could, promptly kicked the crap out of his current girlfriend and chased her off, and shacked up with him, where she went on to produce quite a few chicks over the years and ended up being a very grumpy, stroppy, but responsible mother. And if you were wondering, yes, that the ranger who chased after her all those years and Pearl did meet again one last time. He was teaching the people of the island of Mototapu how to look after Takahe, and he was doing nest inspections. And what nest did he happen to find? But Pearl's. He looked into Pearl's eyes, and Pearl looked into his eyes, and she squawked at him and gave him a filthy look, and the ranger promptly backed off and vowed never to interact with her again, because the memories of her escape attempts brought too many awful flashbacks to his mind. And that, to this day, is where Pearl the Takahe remains, banished on an island until the end of her days, it would seem, ever the immortal escape artist, and the smartest Takahe who's ever been to Burwood Takahe Centre. So, there we go. That's the story. Yeah, Pearl kept escaping so many times that they had to banish her to an island. I actually have met Pearl, believe it or not, once. I've never held her or anything like that, but I've met her in passing, so I like to think I was able to meet a local celebrity that I'd heard so many stories about over the years. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys. I probably won't use that storybook narration for all of my stories, but I just felt it was appropriate for this one. So yeah, I've got loads of stories of adventures in rangering in New Zealand, and I hope to share a few of them with you sometime. So, thank you very much, lads, and I will see you again another time.